Welcome to Hero Villains. Who do you think will win in Manchester Black vs. Jean Grey when Ruthless Intellect confronts the Phoenix Goddess? Manchester Black is one of the most dangerous psychic mutants to ever face Superman. He possesses powerful telepathic abilities, including reading thoughts, mind control, and creating highly realistic illusions. Unlike many other telepaths, Black carries a pragmatic and ruthless mindset, willing to kill to achieve his goals. His power lies not only in his mental abilities, but also in his tactical sharpness, allowing him to manipulate opponents from the inside. Jean Grey is one of the most powerful mutants in the Marvel Universe, standing out with her telepathic and matter manipulation abilities at an almost limitless level. When merged with the Phoenix Force, she reaches a nearly omnipotent state, able to manipulate matter, energy, and even the fabric of reality. Jean is not only strong in pure power, but also possesses an unwavering will and outstanding mental control. She combines overwhelming power with subtlety, making every opponent wary. Before we dive deep into the analysis, please hit the subscribe button, and please remember to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thank you all very much. Manchester Black is not the kind of hero that people can easily trust. He is a British anti-hero, possessing outstanding telepathic abilities along with a powerful ability to control objects with his mind. With a prickly personality and extreme mindset, he leads a superpowered group called the Elite, where justice is not enforced with compassion, but with power and ruthlessness. Manchester Black assembled the Elite into a global intervention force, acting fast, decisively, but also full of violence. This very approach pushed him into an inevitable confrontation with Superman. That conflict was not only a battle of strength, but also a clash between two completely opposite ideologies. Since then, a smoldering and prolonged enmity formed between them. Manchester Black also demonstrates his danger through sophisticated schemes. He climbed to a leadership position at Star Labs and secretly created an artificial intelligence named Algorithm. This entity caused a series of chaotic attacks in New York, all just to lure the Teen Titans into a prearranged trap. He even turned himself into a victim in a perfect act, making the Titans trust him and extend a helping hand. But behind that mask was a larger plan. Once he gained their trust, Manchester Black quickly cooperated with the Teen Titans and re-established the Elite under a new form. This group gathered powerful names like Wonder Girl, Power Girl, Clarion, Guardian, Kid Flash, and Trinity. A seemingly righteous lineup, but always harboring hidden instability. In the shadows of twisted calculations and ideals, Manchester Black emerges like a silent storm. He is not loud, but every step carries a sense of unease. That is the kind of enemy that makes people fear not only his strength, but also because they cannot predict what will happen next. Manchester Black is known as one of the individuals possessing the most terrifying psychic abilities. His power does not stop at telepathy, but also extends to the ability to control objects with his mind with incredible precision and power. With that power, Manchester Black is fully capable of facing off directly against icons like Superman or Superboy without showing any signs of inferiority. He shows dominance in a way that leaves his opponents astonished. With just the thought, Manchester Black can blast Superman hundreds of meters away right after blocking a heat vision attack. That power is not only defensive, but also ruthless enough to cause serious injury, like when he used his abilities to sever Frankenstein's hand without direct contact. Manchester Black can also create invisible force fields from psychic energy. These shields are sturdy enough to withstand fierce attacks, from Superman's heat vision to the firepower from the Bride of Frankenstein. He also easily lifts himself into the air, moving freely as if gravity is no longer a barrier. Every time Manchester Black uses his powers, space seems to be distorted by his will. There are no loud explosions, no clear movements, just an invisible pressure squeezing everything around. It is that terrifying silence that truly makes his opponents tremble. Manchester Black is not only dangerous in his strength, but also in his telepathic ability, allowing him to directly invade the thoughts of others. He even once read the mind of Superman and discovered his secret identity as Clark Kent, a secret that very few can touch. Manchester Black can also manipulate perception by creating incredibly realistic illusions. He made Superboy and Superman believe that a tree was still burning even though the fire had long been extinguished. More ruthlessly, he conjured the image of a dead cat right in front of Superboy, turning the fear and emotions of his opponent into a tool for mental attacks. Manchester Black can completely control the minds of others. He once took over the consciousness of Superboy, forcing him to turn and attack his own teammates. However, this ability is not always easy to execute, and he possesses an even more terrifying power. Manchester Black can separate his soul from his physical body, existing as pure consciousness. In this state, he can invade the bodies of other creatures and control them completely, without being limited by time. There was a time, in a desperate attempt to survive, he took over the body of a cow. A strange choice, but one that clearly reflects a fierce survival instinct. Black can control thousands of minds at the same time. When controlling Bizarro and Silver Banshee, he temporarily helped them maintain their sanity so they could communicate and plan. He can also swap the minds of Superman and Bizarro, putting the mind of each into the body of the other. Although he possesses immense power, his durability is close to that of a human. His main weakness is a frail physique. If the protective layer of his telekinetic ability is pierced, he will be easily injured. I really hope you will. Subscribe to the channel, it will help us a lot, and you are the best person ever. Thank you very much. Now let us talk about Jean Grey. Jean Grey is one of the rare Omega level mutants, where power is not only vast but also instinctive and explosive. Her abilities awakened in the most traumatic moment when she witnessed the death of her best friend, as if emotions had broken all limits, holding back her mind. From that moment, her telekinetic and telepathic abilities began to develop at an astonishing speed, becoming increasingly sophisticated and dangerous. Jean is not only stronger, but also controls her powers with remarkable precision. She once used her abilities to block the optic energy beams of Cyclops, allowing him to act freely without needing his familiar protective visor. That is not just strength, but also an almost perfect understanding and coordination between two minds. The telepathic ability of Jean also allows her to deeply invade the thoughts of others. She once directly interrogated the mind of a president, uncovering carefully hidden secrets. Right after that, Jean used her telekinetic ability to completely destroy telephoronics technology, a form of advanced biotechnology operating similar to nanotechnology but acting directly on living bodies, turning hosts into dangerous entities equivalent to Omega-level protectors. When Jean Grey takes action, space seems to fall silent in a tense breath. Everything around shakes to her will, as if reality itself must submit. Jean Grey not only possesses outstanding telepathic power, but also demonstrates the ability to connect minds at an almost limitless level. She once communicated telepathically with Scott Summers, even though the two existed in completely different spaces. One in the Mojo universe, the other, in reality, 616. Her ability to read thoughts does not stop at the conscious level, but also sneaks into the deep subconscious. This allows Jean to exploit information that the subjects themselves do not realize. In combat, she perfectly combines mental power and telekinesis, easily lifting giant wooden blocks and then crushing alien enemies in an instant, as if weight and resistance never existed. Jean also showed sophistication when she directly accessed Cerebro data to transmit a copy of the consciousness of Professor X without using the device. This ability shows she is not only powerful, but also clearly understands how complex psychic systems operate. Jean saved Emma Frost from terrifying entities inside the mind of Storm. She did not destroy them in the usual way, but turned them into a strange creature shaped like a winged elephant, becoming a means of transportation in the inner world of Ororo. Jean can also recreate memories through telepathy. After accessing the mind of Madrox, she copied what he had experienced. Even if the images were not perfectly flawless, they were still clear enough for Beast to analyze and determine the scale of the weapons appearing in those memories. When she enters the mind of another, it is no longer a safe space, but becomes a stage where every thought can be reshaped. The stillness in her eyes is sometimes more worrying than a storm. Jean Grey is not only powerful when acting alone, but also astonishingly stronger when connecting her strength with others. Using telepathy, she merged her mind with Sage and Black Tom Cassidy, creating a unified consciousness network strong enough to manipulate complex cryptofloronic technology. When minds blend into one, Jean not only amplifies her power but also extends her control to a level that is almost absolute. Jean once contacted Wolverine while he was millions of miles away from Earth. Cosmic distance could not stop her consciousness from reaching her teammate, like an invisible string always keeping them connected. In those moments, Jean was also not inferior to anyone. She lifted a giant space station through the atmosphere and placed it into orbit, creating conditions for Magneto to receive it. Not stopping there, she also used her telekinetic powers to bring Iceman from the ground all the way up to orbit, a clear testament to power far beyond limits. Jean also plays the role of a silent protector. When an alien machine caused intense pain to the people of New York, she used telepathy to shield the minds of many people, soothing pain without anyone realizing the source. At the same time, she created invisible force fields to protect mutants against metal attacks from Magneto. Jean's influence is so great that Wolverine had to admit her power is nearly infinite. With support from Jean and Professor X, Wolverine's consciousness could even reconstruct his own body, showing that psychic power can not only destroy, but also regenerate. When Jean Grey expands her mind, the world seems to go quiet for a fragile moment. Every thought, every movement can be touched. Jean Grey demonstrates power that overwhelms the most dangerous entities. She once subdued Phoebe Reginax, a sorceress tied to dark magical forces. When a demon spread nightmares throughout New York, Jean did not choose to destroy it immediately. Instead, she used telepathy to invade its mind, making its own fear turn back to swallow the entity. She also left a cold message that her mercy was only a choice, not a limit. When fighting head-on, Jean maintains incredible control. She easily lifts giant stone blocks as if they have no weight, and more importantly, she can neutralize the telekinetic powers of Madeline Pryor. Not stopping at nullifying the opponent's strength, Jean also used her own power to push Madeline through treacherous terrain while creating a protective layer around the opponent's body to control the entire situation. The combination of telepathy and telekinesis helps Jean significantly increase both strength and durability. Thanks to that, she continued to free magic from control, completely breaking the influence that Madeline imposed on her. Jean Grey does not need to show off, but every time she acts, the world seems to pause in a tense beat of silence. It is the feeling when a will strong enough to bend reality is silently operating. Jean manipulated the mind of Cordyceps to make it think it was actually winning, while in reality, Jean was using her telekinetic ability to collect its spores. Jean has the telepathic ability to penetrate the minds of everyone in Milford, then uses memories of their homes to reconstruct them using telekinetic power from a distance. Essentially, she rebuilt the entire town. Jean Grey is strong enough to overwhelm opponents with such horrific strength that their punches can crack the moon and tear apart singularities in space. Before such forces, Jean not only stands firm, but also gains the upper hand through absolute will and control. She also absorbs psychic energy from the surrounding environment, converting it into her own power source and significantly increasing her own capacity. Thanks to this, Jean surpassed normal limits and unleashed a strike strong enough to knock down Galactus, a cosmic entity usually considered almost invulnerable. She can observe events taking place outside an progenitor celestial entity, even when the consciousness of that entity is heavy enough to warp space like a black hole. Not only seeing it, Jean can also go deep into its thought waves if she exerts her full power. Jean becomes a living shield for her teammates. She protects them from the horrific psychic pressure emitted by the primordial entity, a source of power that can distort both reality and will. When everything around seems to collapse, Jean still stands firm as the center. Jean would then overcome this effort and forcibly enter the mind of the progenitor and face her judgment. The comprehensive psychic power of Jean Grey can blow away the evolved form of a precursor creature on the celestial plane. On the astral plane, Jean once again used telepathy to humiliate Nightmare, causing his victims to turn against him while he could not control what he was feeding on. Jean then declared that if he attacked her again, she would break every atom in his body with her telepathic power. The encounter between Manchester Black and Jean Grey opens with a tense mental scouting phase. Both use telepathy to read the intentions of the opponent. Manchester quickly launches illusions and attempts to take control, but Jean, with her Omega level, easily erects mental barriers and counters more powerfully, making all his intrusion efforts meaningless. When the battle shifts to a confrontation using telekinetic abilities, Manchester creates massive waves of force to overwhelm Jean. However, she responds with absolute precision, combined with solid force field layers that seem impenetrable. Not taking much time, Jean begins to aim directly at the neurological structure of her opponent, pushing the fight to a much more dangerous level. Manchester does not give up easily. He launches sophisticated attacks aimed at disrupting brain activity, trying to cause damage from the inside. Even so, Jean has faced terrifying telepathic entities like Professor X or Shadow King, so she has enough courage to endure and quickly regain the initiative. It is at this moment that the power within her begins to burn. When the Phoenix Force awakens, the situation of the match changes completely. Jean is no longer limited to normal strikes, but shifts to manipulating cosmic energy, controlling matter, and expanding her consciousness to a scale that encompasses reality. Faced with that cosmic power, Manchester, despite possessing formidable abilities, cannot keep up. Jean Grey, when reaching the Phoenix state, Manchester Black remains one of the most dangerous psychics, once strong enough to threaten even Superman, but the gap between him and an entity carrying cosmic power is too large. In the case that Jean only uses basic powers, the match would be more balanced, and Manchester could take advantage of cunning mental strikes. However, with the Omega advantage, Jean is still the one who prevails in the end. When the Phoenix Force appears, everything ends quickly. Space seems to be scorched in an invisible flame, and the will of Jean encompasses everything. Jean Grey stands superior and wins an absolute victory. I hope you liked this battle. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. Please follow me if you like. That is the video for today. Thank you very much.